Hi guys, it's Abby. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about progressed sun in Gemini and progressed sun in the third house. I will leave timestamps below so you can go right to the third house video if you want to skip the Gemini part. And I'm not going to go into today's video what progressions or progressed sun itself represents or how to calculate yours. So if you need answers to those questions, I did an intro to progressed sun video and I will link it in the description box below. The areas that will be affected when you go into your progressed sun in Gemini for the next 30 years are the areas that Gemini rules, which are the chest, the airways, the lungs, the arms, shoulders, so shoulders all the way down to hands, and in general the nervous system. So any of those areas will be emphasized during this progression despite whatever your natal sun is, and they could be areas that could be problematic as well. There's only 5 signs that can ever experience a progressed sun in Gemini. So obviously natal Gemini, sun in Taurus, sun in Aries, in Pisces, and in some cases, sun in Aquarius. If you have sun in Taurus and then you go into your progression through Gemini, it depends on when you were born in Taurus season as to when you'll go in. So if you were born towards the later end of Taurus season, you will go into your progressed sun in Gemini pretty early in your life, like within your first 10 years. If you were born in the middle of the season, you'll go in probably around your teenage years. And if you were born early in the season, you won't go in until your 20s. So Taurus tends to be very stubborn, very stuck in a rut, very into their routines, comfort zone creatures of habit, and going into Gemini shakes everything up. Gemini is a sign of multiplicities and it's the curious sign. So you'll start to be curious about everything. If you're a little kid when you go in, you're just going to be much more curious and open to new experiences and socializing, and much less the stubborn little toddler you might have been. If you go in during your school years, you're just going to open up and start wanting to talk to everybody, and you might actually be more avidly interested in school than you were prior to this progression change. If you go in your 20s, it could affect your career. So you could have been very set on a career choice when you were in high school, and you go into college, maybe you had a very specific major, you just plowed right through it the way Taurus does, and then you have this come over and maybe you just start finding yourself interested in new career possibilities or changing up your position. You might be interested in starting businesses on the side, anything, because you're just going to feel bored, unfortunately. There's nothing worse for Gemini than boredom. So curiosity is the thing that counters boredom. We want information more than anything else. We want to talk to people when we're in this. I'm actually in this progression. We want to share, so give and receive. So you might, if you go into this in your 20s, for example, or even in your teens, you might take on the actual teaching role. So you might become a mentor, or you might like tutor people. It's just all about sharing information. This is also a sign where you might be interested in taking little trips here and there, because Gemini rules short trips. It rules our community, our neighborhood, our hometowns, wherever we are, we want to explore. So the opposite sign, Sagittarius, is all about way over there, other countries, other cultures, exploring things, esoteric information, philosophical, educational stuff, not really stuff that's applicable here and now. Gemini is here and now. So the information Gemini wants is like the gossip. It wants the information that will be applicable to the day-to-day stuff we have to do. It will be applicable to whatever role the Gemini has to fulfill. It's more of that information that you need to just go day to day. You might also be very interested in learning how to do things with your hands when you go into this as a Taurus. So anything from musical instruments to, I don't know, even like sewing, or things like, you know how kids play those little string games? Did you ever play those? If you're a kid and you go into this, you might get really into stuff like that with your hands, or like molding clay, making things, art. I say that kids who go into Gemini progressions, they start to enjoy school, but you might actually be bored. It's just that Gemini is so easily distracted. Reading might also become something you're more interested in during this time. Social media, you could get very stuck for hours and hours, getting sucked into like TikTok or YouTube tutorials. You might be more interested in writing. If you're an Aries and you go into your Gemini progression, then you've already gone all the way through your Taurus progression. So I went into this a couple of years ago. If you were an early season Aries, then you're gonna have to wait until older, like maybe in your 40s or 50s to get into your Gemini progression, but it's in the middle age range. So for you, you might see like a total career change when this happens, because naturally Aries are very much like to start new things, and getting out of that Taurus progression, it might feel like all of a sudden you have a newfound curiosity for all the things that your mind just sort of filtered out as you focused on whatever you had to do to get your money up, to get your property. You might also be really interested in kids at this point, because Gemini is really the little child. It's got that little kid energy, just avid curiosity, wanting to talk to people, wanting to be social, wanting to know your neighbors, getting really close to your siblings. Siblings and cousins are part of the Gemini energy. It's just the people in our peer group when we're little, like when we're school age, and it's everybody that's like us. So it's who's in our neighborhood. It's who's in our community. It's not the people who are talking a different language than us far, far away. Although language might be something you get into. Anything having to do with writing, communication, social media, all of that stuff becomes important, and you might find yourself talking a mile a minute. I can't watch long movies anymore now. My attention span has gotten very short, and that is very common with Gemini progressions. Almost, I don't want to say a short fuse, although as Aries we already have a short fuse, but more of like less patience and ability to put up with situations and relationships that are just not working. Taurus, you'll put up with stuff a lot, even to your own detriment. And when you're going through that progression as an Aries, we tend to try and just hone our patience, but no more. It's kind of time to see what else is out there. So you might actually have a relationship switch up if things aren't working out for you, or if things are stuck in a rut. Now is the time to make them a little bit more spicy, and to sort of learn information and kind of like see how you could make things fresh again and have more curiosity into your relationships. You might find yourself much more interested in a career that allows you to share information with people in a mentor type of situation, or you might consider going back to school because you find that you have a curiosity over something, or there's a new field you want to go into, but you need the education for it. It's like many different things start catching your attention, and you kind of have to use your mental focus to hone in if you really need to learn something. Now, if you're a Pisces going through your Gemini progression, then you've gotten through 60 years of Aries and Taurus progression. So you're at least 60, and you could be upwards of 90 if you were born really early in Pisces season. This is usually the last progression that a Pisces will see. So it's their end of life experience. And for Pisces, it's nice because they get to be the little kid again, but they're not the little kid who didn't have boundaries and had everybody's like emotional baggage on them. It's more like the little kid that just kind of is like non-stick when it comes to emotions, because at the end of your life, in your golden years, you just get to enjoy things, like enjoy your grandkids, be kind of childlike with them, have lots of different curiosities, a lot of different hobbies. If you're post your working career, so you're retired, approaching retirement, or maybe you were like a homemaker or owned your own business, you're just going to have lots of little interests, things that you're really good with your hands. So you might enjoy knitting or woodworking or something to do with your hands, and you can just keep learning and getting that sort of youthful curiosity, especially about your neighborhood, your community. And you might love to take little short road trips, maybe take like the grandkids on a road trip this weekend and like, you know, go here and go there, because Gemini rules short trips. So you might just love being in the car. For Pisces to be able to go through life and then end it on that note of, I don't have to take on the world's problems. I'm not everybody's therapist. I can just dance on the surface of life, talk, enjoy people, share information, share what I've learned, but in a lighthearted way. And that's the stage of life that you're in now. Few Aquariuses will get to their Gemini progression. It's only if you were born in the very early season, the very end of Aquarius season. So like late February, just before Pisces season starts. And then you would have to live all the way to your 90s. This is the final circle of air coming back to air. And again, I think that Aquarius is a fixed sign, so it gets very staunch and opinionated sometimes. After 90 years of progressing through Pisces, Aries, and Taurus, You've learned what all of the elements feel like as far as your inner identity shifting. Your career may have gone through some changes. You are at the point now where you're not even very active, most likely. You might be, and that's wonderful. The chances are that you are slowing down at least. And now's the time where you get to explore your own elements of air, but in a much more simple and sort of superficial manner, because Aquarius can get very out there and very like esoteric. But Gemini is just all about the information, giving and receiving it here and now, something that will be spoken about today and forgot about in a few days. And it's nice to have that sense of, I don't really have to be the expert on this. Geminis often come across as being airheaded, kind of even dumb, like just not know nothings. And they're often that's just how they're coming across. Like it's a really good way for them to give and receive information in a way that it doesn't challenge people. And Aquarius can actually be very intimidating to people because of that intellectual ego. So at this point, coming full circle, it's like, oh, I don't have to be the expert to get information. I don't have to be the person that knows everything about this topic. Let go and let the ego dissolve and just enjoy information for the sake of information and learning things for the curiosity here and now, and then letting it go. Now, if you have the sun progressing through your third house, it can be whatever sign and whatever house system you're using, but this is where you go from an avid interest in your values and your valuables, so your finances, real estate, property, material stuff, everything that's the second house. Now you're going into information. So information becomes what your priority is. And this may be a time where you go back to school because you need to get like an updated degree, or you have a curiosity in some information. It might be a time where you write something, like you start a blog, you write a book, you have some sort of involvement in like writing or speaking because it's the house of communication. You might find yourself involved with lots of contracts as well. And this is a time where you might have a lot of focus on your relationships with your siblings, cousins, and neighbors. So it's the house of siblings, and it's also the house of the people right around you, literally. This is the house that's naturally ruled by Gemini. So like Gemini, the hands become important. So you might find having issues with your hands or your lungs. And you might also just have more preoccupation with something to do with the hands. Your community becomes very important to you during your third house progression, as opposed to the world far away. So if you have been living, like if you have gone through Sagittarius transits or have heavy Sag in your natal chart, for example, and you've been in a foreign land for a while or dealing with foreign stuff, you may feel the immediate need to bring it back home to the domestic front. You might also find yourself becoming, going into like a teaching capacity. So you might be in an instructor type of situation. Like if you have a job with a corporation, you might end up going into a training function, or something where you are explaining information and teaching people stuff about the job. You might go into some sort of information capacity in your career, some sort of like a situation or a role where you have to speak a lot, share information with people, even go out and about in the community. So that's my take on progressed sun in Gemini and the third house. If you guys have any questions or comments, or you're going through one of these progressions, please let us know in the comments. Please subscribe to my channel and give this a like if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.